So this offseason, with the uncertainty of the Aaron Rodgers situation in Green Bay, I think any team, not the Packers in the NFC North, were hoping and praying that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't be back in Green Bay, hoping maybe he retire, maybe the Packers would trade him because he was unhappy. Unfortunately for everyone else, Aaron Rodgers is back in the NFC North in 2021, and so I think once again the Packers are going to dominate this division once again for the third consecutive year. I think they're going to win this division for the third consecutive year. But I want to go through and give my thoughts and my predictions for each of these teams in the NFC North, my win prediction, sort of why I think what I think. But if you guys haven't subscribed, you want to see Packers content, NFL content, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel down below. So first off, I want to start at the bottom of the NFC North for my predictions. And we have the Detroit Lions, who I think this season are going to be finished as 4-12. I think there's no question that the Detroit Lions are in a rebuild. Of course, trading away Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff and some first-round picks. Also, the Lions have lost Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones. So considering last season, their offense ranked 20th in the NFL, so not very good. And now you pretty much have what you had last year, minus Marvin Jones, minus Kenny Golladay, and you're subbing in Jared Goff for Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, which I think is a downgrade. So I think this Lions offense is going to struggle. I do think, with them not really having much receiving talent, TJ Hawkinson is going to dominate this year just because he's going to get so many targets and he is a pretty talented tight end. Also, they're probably going to have to rely on the run game a lot with Swift as well as former Packer Jamal Williams. So I think this Lions team is definitely going to take maybe a few years before they're able to start having some success, with Dan Campbell over there starting this rebuild with the Detroit Lions. If we take a look at their defense, they did draft 2 D linemen in the second and third round in Levi Onwuzurike as well as Ali McNeil. So maybe they have some talent there. Who knows how fast they'll be able to produce considering they will be rookies. Also, they brought in Michael Brockers from the Rams. And then, of course, they have Trey Flowers, probably one of the bright spots on that defense, who last year ranked as the 9th best edge defender per PFF. So they do have a few solid players on this team, but overall, there's no question this is a rebuild. And so I think the Lions will only get 4 wins, coming into the 2021 season. Now moving on to the Chicago Bears. Obviously, this offseason starts off, getting rid of Mitch Trubisky. Andy Dalton comes in there. And at first, I was honestly wondering why you would bring in Andy Dalton because he's a fine quarterback. I mean, he's an average quarterback, and I just don't see why you would bring in a guy like that just because, there's just not much going for you there. There's not much of a ceiling there. You sort of know what you're getting. But obviously, of course, the NFL draft comes around. The Bears come in, select Justin Fields. And as a Packers fan, I didn't like that pick by the Bears just because I think that Justin Fields is talented. And I think that he could have a great future in the NFL. So obviously, the Bears bringing him in, I think, really elevates this team coming into the future. But now, of course, Matt Nagy is saying that Justin Fields is not going to be starting off as the QB. And I know Bears fans are not happy about that. They're, calling for Justin Fields to start, which makes sense because, as I've said, you know what you're getting from Andy Dalton. He's an average quarterback. He's not super exciting to watch. As opposed to Justin Fields, he can run the ball, he can escape from the pocket, he can make crazy plays, and we saw lots of that in the preseason. In the preseason, Fields went 30 for 49, 276 yards and 3 TDs, plus, he can, move around on his feet as well. So I think the Bears, coming into the future, have a lot more to hope for, obviously, with Justin Fields. We'll see how he does in the future. We'll see when Matt Nagy finally decides to hand the reins over to Justin Fields. Because I think with, Andy Dalton, maybe allowing him to start, maybe Nagy is thinking that, he just wants to give Justin Fields some time to develop, some time to learn. Personally, I would say why not throw him out there, give him some more reps, because we know for rookies, reps are important. They're going to take time to learn and develop. But maybe he wants to save Justin Fields from whatever could happen. I don't know. But I think that, Justin Fields coming in here at some point in the season will be better for the Bears. And we'll just see how long, it takes Bears fans to, rile up Matt Nagy enough to where he actually decides to say, okay, fine, guys, it's time to start Justin Fields. Maybe that's when Andy Dalton starts to play poorly. Maybe that's Justin Fields' time to come in. But I just don't feel like Andy Dalton's going to be starting for that much longer here with the Chicago Bears. But overall, on the defensive side of the ball for the Bears, I think up front they're pretty solid. Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Nichols as well. But then when you take a look at their cornerback group, they did lose Kyle Fuller this offseason, so they have a pretty weak cornerback group. And when you're facing these offenses now in the NFL who have, 2, 3, 4 insanely talented wide receivers, I think it's going to be tough for this Bears defense to hold off these pass-happy offenses. So I'm not too sure how good the Bears will be this year, but my prediction is 7-10 for the Chicago Bears. Maybe next season Justin Fields starts to play more. Maybe the Bears can slowly, become a better team overall. But that's my prediction for the Bears for this season. Now moving on, I think the Minnesota Vikings will finish as the second best team in the NFC North. I have them as 9-8 in this 17-game season coming into 2021. So last season, the Vikings offense was pretty solid. When you have a guy in Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the NFL, I mean, it's pretty tough to have a completely, terrible offense. Last year, Cook's touches accounted for 60% of the Vikings offense, which is, a pretty high amount considering 60% of the offense ran through Dalvin Cook last season. Plus, you have a guy in Justin Jefferson, dominated last year as a rookie, so I see no reason why he won't continue to elevate his play coming into his second year. So I think, overall, this Vikings offense is pretty solid. The thing is, though, maybe the one weakness is outside of Justin Jefferson as well as Adam Thielen, I think the talent level for this wide receiver drops off. So if you have, Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen go down with any injury, I think that this Viking offense will really struggle. So we'll see what happens there. But then we take a look at their defense. Last season, their defense was pretty terrible. 29th best scoring defense in the NFL. Partly having to do with tons of injuries on the Vikings, defensive side of the ball. One interesting statistic, in 6 seasons with Mike Zimmer, the Vikings had never been ranked outside the top 11 defenses besides last season, where they ranked as the 29th best defense. So I think that this season, when they're getting lots of these guys back from injury, their D-line is going to be stacked with Dalvin Tomlinson. Plus you got Daniel Hunter coming back, who last in 2019 was the number 7th ranked edge defender. I think this defense will just, sort of go back to how it used to be. We'll have to see, though, because they do have a few older veterans here, bringing in Patrick Peterson, who, didn't play too well last season. Obviously, in the past, he was one of the best, so we'll see if he can bounce back this season. But overall, I think this Vikings defense will take a step forward. Their offense is still, I think, pretty stacked, so maybe top 10, top 15 offense once again. So I think the Vikings will finish as 9-8. So, of course, this means that I have ranked the Packers as the number 1 team in the NFC North coming into 2021. You probably weren't too shocked about this considering I already said it, plus it's in the title. Plus you have Aaron Rodgers coming back. And I think overall, just looking at this Packers team, the offense last year, probably the best offense in the NFL when it comes to scoring offenses. You have Aaron Rodgers, you have Devontae Adams, you have 2 guys in Allen Lazard and MVS who are going to, I think, take big steps forward this next season. We've heard MVS has really improved his route running ability. We bring back Aaron Jones. We have A.J. Dillon, who I think could be a stud even if he was the only running back on this team. You have Robert Tonyan. You have Malik Taylor looking good. I mean, this Packers offense is just stacked. As I talked about last week, the only, I think, potential weakness is, of course, with David Bakhtiari being out. We have a few young guys who are going to be starting on the offensive line. So that's one thing to watch out, especially in the first, 6 weeks of the season with David Bakhtiari, not being there. So I think this Packers offense is going to, be a top 5 offense once again coming into 2021. You take a look at the defensive side of the ball. We have pretty much the same unit there. We got Jair Alexander, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, 2 of the best safeties in the NFL, and Darnell Savage and Adrian Amos. Probably the only one weakness there is our second cornerback. Who knows how long it'll take Eric Stokes to develop. And then, of course, hopefully Kevin King can, bounce back from the struggles that he has had in the past couple seasons. So overall, though, when you have Aaron Rodgers and your offense is this stacked, it's just hard to compete with the Packers. And so my prediction for the Packers this season is 13-4, which will put them at the top of the NFC North. But those are my rankings. Let me know your thoughts down below. What you think about these rankings. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Put out Packers content, NFL content, and with the season coming up, I'll be putting out a lot more stuff. So make sure you guys turn on those notifications as well. And if you haven't followed me on Twitter, my Twitter username is Luke_Beller. Starting to post a lot more over there, so follow me on Twitter. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so pumped the season is finally here. First NFL game on Thursday. I think it's Cowboys-Bucks, so that should be a fun one. I have Amari Cooper on my fantasy team, so that's who I will be cheering for in that one. But thank you guys for watching. It's fun that the season is actually here, and I'll see you guys on the next video.